Today we are going to talk on resilience and well-being. Resilience and well-being. That's the discussion for this evening. So before we get into that, I would like to let you know just a little bit about my background. I'm a resilience coach. I'm also a registered social worker with extensive experience in Finland and in the UK. I have over 13 years or more professional experience working as a social services coordinator with adolescents. And in Finland, I remember I used to work there as a unit resettlement manager, working with unaccompanied minor refugees and asylum seekers at the Finnish Immigration Service. So I have some knowledge and expertise in providing life-changing support to young people in particular. My current role as a case manager with the youth offending team in a local government area in the southern part of England. I work with young people aged 10 to 17 who have become involved in the criminal youth justice system. So in a way, I encourage them to be good people of the society. You know, the youth are our future. They are a very important part of the society. So I work with young people to prevent them from getting into crime and any antisocial behavior. That's what I do. You see, that tells you that I have a tremendous passion for supporting people and their families to ensure that they thrive, to ensure that they flourish. How do I do that? By making a conscious, I encourage them to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort. So I strongly believe that the battle is in the mind. The battle in life is in the mind. And that's why one of my favorite quotes is, when life knocks you down, you better land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. I got that from Les Brown, who is one of my mentors. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's get into business for tonight. What is resilience? What is resilience? We have a handful of definitions of resilience, right? I've just picked a few, and amongst those, I have an interesting one. That is one of my favorite. So first of all, resilience is the psychological strength to deal with stress, psychological strength to deal with setback, psychological strength to deal with crisis, right? And we will also find out from our research that resilience is the ability to recover from or to adjust easily to misfortune or change. Ability to recover from, ability to adjust easily to misfortune or change. Resilience is also known as the mental processes and behaviors that people use to protect themselves from harmful effects of the things that stress them, otherwise known as stressors, right? It's the ability to adapt and flex, right, to the obstacles that life continuously presents. The ability to adapt, ability to be flexible to the obstacles that life continuously presents. But there's one definition of resilience that catches my attention. It's the mental reservoir of strength that people can call on in times of need. The mental reservoir of strength that people can call on in times of need to carry them through without falling apart. Mental reservoir of strength that people can call on in times of need to carry them through without falling apart. That's my favorite definition of resilience. Mental reservoir. There is something within us that we can always tap into when things fall apart. Let's proceed. Types of resilience. There are various types of resilience. For the purpose of this conversation, I will limit it to just 4 different types of resilience. All right? We have the psychological resilience. Psychological resilience. And this is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with a crisis or to return to pre-crisis status quickly. Psychological resilience somehow has a connection with emotional resilience. You know, emotional resilience is the one that a person can tap into realistic optimism, you know, even when dealing with a crisis. Meanwhile, psychological resilience is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with a crisis or to return to pre-crisis status quickly. Right? So, we've seen 2 types of resilience here. The second one is, the third one is physical resilience. Physical resilience is the body's ability to adapt to challenges and recover quickly. I like that, recover quickly. The quickly part of it, I enjoy that. You know, the body's ability to adapt to challenges and recover quickly. And I have the last part of the types of resilience. Remember, this is not an exhaustive list. There are other types of resilience, but let's consider the last one, which is community resilience. Community resilience. The ability of groups of people to respond to and recover from adverse situations. Resilience is the psychological strength to deal with stress, psychological strength to deal with setback, psychological strength to deal with crisis, right? And we will also find out from our research that resilience is the ability to recover from or to adjust easily to misfortune or change. Situations such as natural disasters, adverse situations such as acts of violence or economic hardship. You see, community resilience, the ability of groups of people to respond to and recover from adverse situations such as natural disasters, acts of violence, or economic hardship. Right? So let's go back to what we are discussing this evening: resilience and well-being. We have looked at what resilience is. Let us consider what well-being is right now. What is well-being? What is well-being? Right? Well-being is the state of being comfortable, the state of being healthy. Well-being is the state of being happy. But please remember that it's important to realize that well-being is a much broader concept than just a moment-to-moment happiness, right? So we've looked at resilience, we've looked at what well-being is, because we are discussing resilience and well-being, right? Let's see what we have here. Okay. All right, let's proceed. So if we have looked at these two, resilience and well-being, we might want to go further by looking at some of the ways of finding our inner strength. Some of the ways of finding our inner strength. In other words, how can we begin to build resilience? Let's explore, let's dive deeper now into it, right? You bear with me that there is the personal ability and then there's the personal effort. Those are two different things. Personal ability and personal effort. Two different things entirely. And sometimes attributing failure to, if we attribute less failure to personal ability, and we attribute failure more to personal effort, this somehow tends to move people in the direction of action, rather than, being self-defeating and feeling depressed or having some kind of depressive explanations. So personal ability, personal effort, important in building resilience. It's good to have this in mind. Now, experiencing challenging phases in life can really test our courage. It can test our spirit. Every one of you in this audience, in one way or the other, has a story to tell in terms of challenges. When you encounter those bumps, I call them road bumps, bumps on the road. When you encounter them, how do you react? How do you react? Are you able to deal effectively with these challenges without going to pieces? Adversity, they say, and stress, they are part of life. They're part of real life indeed. But how we respond is our responsibility. How we respond is our responsibility, all right? So, we can choose to just succumb to it, succumb to the stress, and they say wallow in the whole thing and be depressed. That's called apathy. Or we can choose to rise above it, rise to the occasion, to explore ways to bounce back. And that's what I call growth, right? Challenges that come to us, we can choose to give in, succumb to the stress, wallow in it, or we can choose to explore ways to bounce back. And that's what I call growth. The first point we want to consider when looking at finding ways to towards your inner strength, or I like this, I like tapping into your mental reservoir. First point you want to look at is to avoid seeing crisis as some kind of impossible or insurmountable problems. That's the first point. Take some time to ponder, take some time to present, the dilemma that you're facing. Approach the challenge with some positivity, right? It may sound really oversimplified, but you can either approach a stumbling block thinking, well, I don't think I'm going to survive it. Or you can approach it with this kind of mindset. I'm going to do my best and make my way through this situation. Taking a positive outlook will do what? It will compel you to move forward through the crisis. And therefore, I call upon you to be optimistic. Be optimistic. That's not the end of the world. What's the worst thing that can happen to us? The second point is acknowledge your fears about the troubling situation. Sometimes we pretend. Acknowledge your fears about the troubling situation, all right? You see, before you can show resilience to move forward, it is important to recognize any fears that have some kind of bearing on your current circumstance. We all have fears. Even the most courageous people on the planet, they have their fears. Presidents, those in influential positions, they have their fears. But it might be interesting to know what happens when you ignore those fears. When you ignore your fears, it will prevent you from confronting the issue. So, resilience is the psychological strength to deal with stress, psychological strength to deal with setback, psychological strength to deal with crisis, right? And we will also find out from our research that resilience is the ability to recover from or to adjust easily to misfortune or change. Embrace your strength. Embrace your strength. Remember that your strength has pulled you through many crises in the past. Do you recognize that? So I challenge you to have confidence that it can continue to strengthen you through many more challenges. Your strength pulled you, carried you through many crises that happened in the past. This is not the time to give up. Embrace your strength. Despite the challenges you're going through right now, there's something within you. There's an energy right down there. It's time for you to tap into that. Our next point is focus. How to build resilience, how to develop your inner strength. Focus. One of my favorite quotes is, "Where focus goes, energy flows. Therefore, you get what you focus on." Some people call it the law of attraction. Others call it the law of visualization. And then others even call it the law of manifestation. You see? Yeah, avoid looking too far ahead. Yeah, just focus on what's going on in this moment. Sometimes it helps to make it through 1 hour at a time. So focus. Focus will help you tap into your inner strength. And then concentrate your energy on what you can do in the here and now. What can you do here and now? Concentrate that energy on that thing, all right? This is an interesting point. Pray. Simple. Pray. Okay, pray to who? Pray about what? Well, many of us, we believe in something. Many of us believe in a higher being. You can draw from your faith to help you through your crisis, right? Because spirituality sometimes, regularly, it assists many millions of people to live consistently healthy, okay? To live consistently happy lives. Perhaps finding faith will bring you to the inner part of yourself. It will bring you that inner strength that you desire. Okay? And our last point that I want to look at is to prioritize your relationships. Do you know that some relationships are quite toxic? Some relationships are really toxic. So prioritize your relationships. Connecting with empathetic and understanding people, connecting with such people can remind you that you are not alone during difficult events. Yeah? You are not alone during difficult events. And therefore, seek emotional support from those you love. All right? Any troubling event is easier to go through, it's easier to navigate through when you feel the love and support from someone close to you. Remember, I said prioritize your relationship. You alone, you know those who are toxic. So make a priority. Identify those fair weather friends, those who are there only when things are going well. How about when things don't go the way it is, planned? There are some people who stay. There are some people who stand by you no matter what. Prioritize your relationship, okay? And seek emotional support from those you love. So we have seen that any troubling relationship, any troubling event, crisis, it's easier to go through when you feel the love and support from someone close to you. All right? So what have we been talking about? We've been talking about resilience and well-being. Resilience and well-being. And for those who are just joining us, I've been looking at a few points here. We have defined what resilience is all about, the psychological strength to deal with stress, setback, or crisis, right? And in all of these, I have my favorite, which is the mental reservoir of strength that people can call on in times of need to carry them through without falling apart. We have looked at that, right? That's trying to define resilience, but that's not an exhaustive list of definitions. There are other definitions of resilience. I just picked this for the purpose of this conversation. And we have looked at the types of resilience, which is also not exhaustive. Types of resilience which include, but not limited to, the psychological resilience, emotional resilience. These two are quite linked because they both deal with the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with crisis or to return to a pre-crisis status quickly, to return to it quickly. I like that one, quickly, right? Then we've also looked at physical resilience, where the body has some ability to adapt to challenges and recover quickly. Physical resilience. That could be during training exercises when, say, people are being enlisted for military activities or career. That's just an example. So since we are talking about resilience and well-being, we also have looked at what well-being is. Well-being, the state of being comfortable, the state of being healthy, the state of being happy, right? And we also talked about the importance to realize that well-being is much broader concept than just moment-to-moment happiness, okay? So we went on to look at the ways of finding your inner strength. And we have looked at a few points. Avoid seeing crises as impossible problems. Acknowledge your fears about the troubling situation. Accept the things you cannot change. Consider every option. Relieve your spirit. Encourage yourself. Embrace your strength. Okay? And then focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. I like that one. That's me. Where focus goes, energy flows. So focus. When you focus, something happens. I said some call it the law of attraction. Some call it the law of visualization. Others call it the law of manifestation. So focus. And then pray.